I've been the parent of a child with Down syndrome for 2 years now, and my son Sebastian just turned 2 a couple of weeks ago. This morning, I was tagged in a post on Facebook by a parent who has a child with Down syndrome, and the conversation was around some of the negative reactions that we sometimes get when people in the public we're interacting with and they find out our child has Down syndrome. And so I thought I'd just share some of my thoughts and experiences that might be helpful for those of you that may be new parents or that just kind of my thoughts around it and lessons learned. And so I reflect back on my first reaction when I found out my son had Down syndrome was one of shock. I didn't really know what Down syndrome was or what that means. I realized in that moment that I had many expectations of what my son's life would unfold like, and it's going to be different. But I've learned that I think that's like that for any child. I have a daughter who's 4, and I have expectations for her. I'm sure it's going to turn out totally differently. And so I look at my own reactions first and realize, when I've met other people who had kids with autism or some other challenging situation, I didn't know what to say. And so my own reactions were very similar to the reactions that I get now when I tell a person, they might ask a question about my son's kind of small because he is with Down syndrome. Kids typically develop slower and they're smaller. And so what I've learned to do is use those really as educational moments because I realize that people aren't trying to be hurtful or mean. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And typical reactions, people will say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It's almost like someone's died or something like that. And again, I look at myself and realize I don't always react maybe in the most appropriate way when I'm confronted with a situation where I don't really quite understand. So, I've kind of learned to be patient with other people and to be patient with myself and really just kind of appreciate the lessons that I learned from my son and my daughter. And I've kind of come to believe over the last 2 years that Down syndrome is one aspect of Sebastian's life. When he was first born, it was really the dominant theme. That's kind of the filter through which I saw him. And so now I see that it is just one aspect of his life. And there are so many other aspects of that. And so I've had coworkers and other people that will ask me questions. And I know they're just curious. They want to understand. And so I try to kind of not immediately get offended because someone maybe makes a comment that's maybe not politically correct. But like I said, I don't think I've really had anybody that has purposely been trying to be hurtful. And so I try to kind of take what they say with a grain of salt and use it as an opportunity to kind of just share a little bit about what is Down syndrome and what is it like being a parent. One of the feedback that I get, a piece of feedback I get regularly is that, it takes special parents or you must be a special parent or, God gives these kids to special parents. Yeah, I don't really think that's true. I think it's just genetics. I mean, it's fairly random, how it works out. So I don't really think I'm more special than anybody else. I definitely learned a ton from my son. He is the most fully present human being that I know. And so I admire that because oftentimes in the conversations I have with people, I'm thinking about other things. And so I try to learn from that example, just like I learned from my daughter, and try to just become a better human being myself. So, and I think my 3 sort of lessons learned or takeaways right now are one, to be patient with myself because, I don't always have, I have a lot of fear and nervous about how my kids are going to develop. And I think that's just normal for any good parent, that you just worry about your kids and you hope they're safe, and that. And being patient with others and using those opportunities, those awkward conversations, and converting those into educational moments. Because I know when people have reacted to me when they found out my son has Down syndrome and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and they realize that, it's a really negative response, but they're not trying to be hurtful. And so I just try to be positive, turn it into an educational moment, help them kind of understand, and then, kind of build a bridge there and use those for those opportunities. And then lastly, like I said, just appreciate the lessons that I learned from my kids. So I appreciate being tagged in that post this morning because otherwise I would not have even, kind of documented my thoughts. And my name is Eric Brown. And if you're a parent, I love to talk to people. If there's any just idea sharing or just experiences, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.